I have a 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee and I'm going to replace the front brake rotors as well as the brake pads, and I'll show you how to do that, as well as what I did to get the bolts off. So here are my new rotors I bought off Amazon, and they were really good price. So you can see that the rotors are drilled, and they are heavy duty rotors, and the brake pads are also they are not ceramic, they are regular metal brake pads, because I use the Jeep for towing, so I chose metallic brake pads. And I'm going to raise the Jeep, take the bolts off and take the tire off. I'm using a 3x4 socket, deep socket for these tires, and I've loosened the bolts. So I'm going to raise the car, the front of the car, and I'll support it on jack stands, and then I'll take the wheel off. So I've taken the wheel off, and you can see this is the caliper, which has the brake pads, and you can see the brake pads right there. And I will also take off the brake disc, and I will replace both of them. To first remove the caliper, there are two bolts over here. Those are 17mm bolts, this one and right there, this one. And then I have another jack stand ready. Once the caliper comes on, I want to put it on this jack stand so that it doesn't hang. So I've taken off the two caliper pin bolts, which go like this, and these are 17mm socket. This uses a 17mm socket. If it doesn't come off, you can use some leverage on it and use a breaker bar or something. Mine came off pretty easy on these ones, and once these come on, you can pull the caliper. You have to wiggle a little bit and it will come off, and you can see the brake pads come off. So try to squeeze it and wiggle it even more, and it will come off. So I got the caliper off, and you can see the caliper right there. There are two pistons in this, and it's an Akibono caliper for this 2001 Jeep Grand Cherokee. So what I had to do is I had to squeeze those calipers using a flathead screwdriver, and I squeezed the two pistons back, and then I was able to pull it out. The next I'm going to do is take the two bolts off. There is one bolt right here, and the other one is right this one. So these two bolts are holding the caliper frame to this axle. So once I take those two bolts off, this caliper holder will come off, and then I can take the brake rotor off. I was able to get the top bolt, which is a 19mm bolt of the caliper bracket, and that came out right from here, but the bottom one was rusted and it was jammed. So I tried my impact wrench and used one of the deep impact sockets, and that messed up the bolt. So what I had to do is get one of the bolt extractors. This is from Irwin, and you can see the bolt extractor right there. And when I put the bolt extractor, it did break my 3x8 breaker bar, but then I had to get a little socket extension which extends it from 3x8 to 1/2 inch, and this breaker bar was able to get it out. So once I put that in, and it was able to loosen the bolt. So I'm going to take this bolt off, and then this caliper bracket will come off as well. I cleaned up the caliper bracket with a wire brush, and cleaned it all the rust and all the brake pad dust that was there. And now I took off the caliper bolts. So if you pull those bolts out, those caliper pins, you'll see that they have the old grease, and I'm going to use some brake grease and clean these up and use some new brake grease so that they can travel within this caliper bracket much more freely. It's not too bad, they are fine. So I put the brake pads and the caliper bracket in, and then tighten the screws in the back. And now I'm going to push the pistons back a little bit because these brake pads are new, and the pistons won't go in if I don't push it back. So once I do that, and then the last thing is to put the caliper back in and tighten the two caliper screws that go right here and right here. Before we push the brake pistons in, we should take some brake fluid from the canister, and this will fill up, otherwise it will be up on the top of the level. So I use a cookie baster like this, and I put it in, take some oil, and then I put it in a container which I can recycle later on. This oil is very destructive, it's very caustic to the paint, so you have to be careful not to touch the body of the Jeep. For pushing the pistons back, I used a small clamp. I didn't have the bigger clamp or the tool that's required for the brake job. But this did the work, and if I tighten the clamp here, it will push the piston back. So once this is all in, I should be able to put the caliper back into place. Okay, the caliper is back in and all the bolts are tightened. Make sure that you tighten it well so that it doesn't loosen up later on while the car is moving. So you can use a torque wrench and torque it to at least 80 to 100 foot-pound in this, or you can use a breaker bar and tighten it as much as you can. So this is how I did the left side. The driver side, I will do the same thing. For the passenger side, I'll put the wheels back on or the tires back on and test it out.